Before I get to the Reddit post, I need y'all to see this tweet from Scott Tyler 89 or Scott J Tyler 89. Let me get it right. He says, "My firstborn is 8 weeks old. I can see why men cheat at this time. My wife completely ignored my existence for the first few weeks, and we had to have arguments to get her to even acknowledge me, not to mention be intimate. That's the biggest challenge. Baby is easy." Obviously, the perspective of a man, not the woman that just grew a whole baby, had hormones and body changed completely for nearly a year, have to labor to get that baby out of her body, which is already a whole thing, is a whole thing. And then her body had to repair itself, provide nourishment for a baby, all while sleep deprived and healing and trying to figure out how to go to the bathroom, shower, and all of that. But then we got someone like Scott J. Tyler 89 saying he can see why men cheat. And I can see why the birth rate is plummeting and why it needs to continue to plummet to hell. So if you are on the fence about having a baby, please know and understand this is how some men think. Now, let me get to this Reddit post. Weirdly enough, I have a post from the Fence Sitter subreddit, and the Fence Sitter is like, do you really want a baby or not? So, on Kids Ruining the Relationship is the title of this post from this woman. And she says, "I've had two friends get divorced soon after they had a child, and I personally had a hard year of marriage when we had a baby. I can say that 90% of the issues are because the man struggles with not only being the center of attention, but he also struggles with having to be a caregiver for his postpartum wife and a new baby he doesn't have the best instincts towards. My husband was a lot less bothered by baby crying than I was." On this sub, I find a lot of people worrying that a kid would ruin their relationship. Maybe that will happen, but the mechanism by which it happens isn't usually that you don't get time with each other. It is the stress of being a caregiver that breaks the man. It feels similar to when men divorce their wives when they have a long term illness. Because their wife appliance is malfunctioning or their wife appliance is down and needs servicing so it can get back to operating optimally. She says, "My husband and I have always tried to be equal partners, but the big difference between us was that the whole world was reaffirming that I ought to be hanging out with baby and the world could wait and helped me with that. Whereas my husband's friends, including other dads, were going out on week-long vacations and gaming all weekend and working long hours. He felt he ought to be able to do that, and something was wrong with me that he couldn't. My own family perpetuated that, and so did his, and it was freaking insane. It took a bunch of therapy and talking to other hands on dads and taking parental leave and bonding with our kid for him to realize, yeah, he needs to be present for our kid. We had to shut the whole world out and be like, okay, this is what we want as a family and work on it. It was very hard. And it was even harder because I was the only one who'd help him work through his emotions, as his instinct were just to bottle it up and not say anything. I also had to let him take ownership of fatherhood and not pressure him to parent the way I parented. That helped him come into his own as a father and bond with the baby in ways that were unique to the two of them. It was very hard for me to not lose my mind when he didn't do things exactly as I wanted, but I persisted. And also, I was very tired. He was not afraid of the work it took to be a parent, but the relentlessness of it and not being in control of his time really got to him. Spending time together is one thing and it's quite important, but in the first 2 years of our kid's life, I wanted our relationship to be on autopilot for a bit while we figured out who we were as a family. And in hindsight, it's good to be able to not have to worry about the relationship while we pursue bigger goals. It felt similar to when my husband launched a business. It meant less time together, less being able to travel, etc., but our relationship was strong enough to be able to take it. I guess it helped us understand the things are super important, which for us is hanging out an hour before bed together and planning our day, week, month, so we can be on autopilot the rest of the time. Everyone can figure this stuff out for themselves in their new situation, but it feels important to have a relationship where you aren't constantly worried about the other person losing interest. Now, this man was checked in. She was able to pull him back into the family while society, the world, his boys, um, series, gaming, sports call him to do man stuff and not be checked into the family. So she was able to salvage things. But then you have people like Scott J. Tyler who believe that, you're not getting a little bit of attention and that's grounds to cheat or leave or whatever you need to do. You as a man get to check out because, you're not getting centered or you're not getting the attention that you think that your postpartum wife who's healing after growing a baby and being sleep deprived and healing should be lavishing on you, even if she hasn't had the chance to even have a shower or a proper meal or whatever. But y'all go ahead and weigh in. I will do a couple of these comments. So Climbing Headstone says, I really feel like the couples who handle parenthood best see the kid as a sort of joint project where they bond over the mutual focus on the project. They also accept that they're in another stage of life. When one person is anxious about change and is secretly hoping that they can remain in the previous stage, hits the fan. And it's usually the man because he didn't have to go through an extreme physical change to become a parent. It's easier for him to have his head in the sand about the change of this life stage. And I guess that is also true. The OP says, it can get there over time. Transitions are hard. Also, I don't think about extreme physical changes. Are women with easy pregnancies less inclined to be prompt with the kids' needs then? It's more societal expectations and also cultural expectations. I'm from a culture where women have a lie-in period after childbirth and everyone comes to them. My mother-in-law had no one helping her after 2 C-sections and her husband was working 14-hour days. So my husband just assumed that moms can do it all if they get maternity leave. Heck, his mom herself thought I was asking too much of him. LOL. Even my own mom thought I shouldn't be asking him to be so involved with the baby. And she offered for me to be home with her so my husband could do a few things he aimed to do. I decided my kid bonding with his dad was important and said no. Yes, sometimes you have to separate yourself from these women who are still checked in, still upholding the patriarchy and that men don't have to do these types of things. I want to end it with this screenshot. Carter Ma'am says, my best friend just separated from her husband with a 4-year-old for the reasons you described. They had some inequalities before the baby, and he had high expectations of her. Her expectations of him have been pretty low, but with the baby, neither of them could keep up. It's easier for her to do it on her own. And that's what a lot of women are saying these days, and they're putting it out there in the public square so that child-free women can know and understand what you may be getting into, and that is also helping the birth rate plummet to hell. YC Fit says, I think this articulates the problems in my relationship that I didn't even realize. This is pretty spot on. My husband doesn't want a second, and I think it stems from what you're saying here and not being able to have the same freedoms and attention he did prior to us having a child. I think I want a second, but I don't want the situation to worsen. Yes, if he's not checked in all the way, why do it to yourself? All right, y'all, join the conversation. Let me know what you think of these. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. So we have talked about return to office. We've talked about work from home, and we've talked about boundaries. So I thought that this was a good post to talk about. So this is in the remote work subreddit. This person says, if you want return to office because of productivity, then that's the only time you will have it. Okay, what is this person talking about? They say, during the pandemic, many companies experienced increased or even record profits while employees worked from home. Yet now, despite those results, there seems to be a renewed push for a return to the office, with productivity being cited as the reason. If being in the office is the key to productivity, then we should align our efforts accordingly. This means reserving all work strictly for the office hours and locations. There would be no need for company-issued laptops or mobile devices if our productivity is indeed tied to the physical office space. If an issue arises after 5 p.m., it will have to wait until the next business day. My personal time, whether spent relaxing or tending to personal obligations, is just that, personal. Similarly, weekend emergencies can be addressed when I'm back in the office on Monday. Given the belief that working from home diminishes productivity, It is only fair to ensure that my contributions are at the peak and sober during office hours. And I agree with this. This is boundary setting. This is literally boundary setting, and many of us need to have it anyway. People need to chill on going above and beyond because these companies do not go above and beyond in giving you money. They don't go above and beyond looking for benefits to give you. So why do people go above and beyond for a company that wouldn't spit on them if they were on fire? They barely give a whole box of pizza to a shift. They give one box of pizza to two shifts. They don't care if you have an anniversary for that company and put in 10 years and then decide to retire. Why do some people still give a damn? They don't give you 2 weeks notice when you're being let go, but they expect you to care when you're giving your notice. Please match energy and match energy in all circumstances. You don't have to do it in an a-hole way, but stay within what they are asking you to do. They want you to return to office. Okay, bet. I am returning to office, and that is when I will work, and I will work the hours as notated per my contract. Please see the contract that we have agreed upon. Now for some of the comments, Banana Pants says, I'm very flexible about taking 8:30 or 9 p.m. calls with colleagues in Asia and 6 or 6:30 a.m. calls with Europe. If they made us do a full return to office, that flexibility will end. I manage a global team with no colleagues in the area. Even though my commute is only 15 minutes, there's absolutely no reason for me to have to reserve a workspace. We have hot desking, which I loathe, and go into a loud, open plan office just to sit on team calls for half the day. And then the OP, Robin Hood, says, work your wage, work your contract. Yes, work your wage, work your contract. I think that is something that we should all take to heart. Work your wage, work your contract. If you're not getting paid a whole lot of money, why are you doing things like make those people who are making all the big bucks do that type of stuff? Insanity says, yeah, I noticed that going above and beyond just causes you to take on more work with no additional compensation. Gone are the days of merit-based promotions. You essentially need to lick some boots to be promoted. Yeah, I don't value going above and beyond, especially if I'm not going to get paid for it. Fion Cielo says, I actively refused promotions. I don't want more responsibility and not a considerable raise, even if I could leverage a higher raise. I never want to manage or be a director. Substantial Ad says, LOL, my contract states I can and will need to respond as required for my work position. After hours is listed specifically. So what any company can do is change employment contract upon renewal. My company updates contracts at least once a year and sometimes more if there's a need for a benefits change, and have not had any issues from employees. Now my company is 3 to 4% work from home, 20 to 21% hybrid. Rest are traveling consultants. Work from home gets no promotions, and only bonus is profit share. Hybrid are placed in promotion pool, ability to receive training and receive performance. Okay, this is a whole lot of specifics that we didn't really need, so I'm going to keep it moving. Camel Sensitive says, indirectly forcing return to office by rewording a 50% pay decrease for work from home employees is fine for companies that don't need top talent. Plenty of people would take those benefits because they are better than a lot of other offerings. The whole return to office thing is really only important when you're competing with other companies for a small pool of workers whose extra time can't be bought with gimmicks. Your company would save a boatload of money by being remote with Friday in office happy hours, but only if your management is capable of implementing a culture that rewards remote productivity. If not, might as well just do what you're doing now. Yeah, it's like if you're going to run people away because you want them in the office specifically just to see their faces, you're going to run away the people that actually have options. And the people that actually have options are top talent. So like this person reference here says, who doesn't want to wake up early, coffee early, shower early, poop early? If kids take them to daycare and all the other kids' things early, drive to work because of killer benefits. Who doesn't want that? All right, y'all, join the conversation. Let me know what you think. We discussed return to office and all of that. So let's just jumpstart that conversation again. So it's political season. What are you seeing specifically in your neighborhood? Are you seeing Trump signs? Are you seeing Harris signs? What are you seeing? So this was posted in the Democrats subreddit. This person says, my Republican neighbor asked where I got my Harris sign from. This person says, I live in Ohio. My district went to Trump in 2016 and 2020. When I saw the first Harris sign go up in my neighborhood, I felt emboldened to get one. My neighbor is older and registered Republican. He and my grandpa were friends and they held similar views. My sign has been up for a week or two, and while cutting the grass, he walked out of his house and started pointing at my sign, walking towards me. Here we go, I thought. But when I cut the motor, he asked, where did you get that? I told him I got it from the local Democrats club. Then he asked, do you think they'll give me one if I asked? I was taken aback and I told him, of course, I would get him a sign. He thanked me and went back to his house. I was able to call my contacts and get him a sign the same day. Now, with our signs in just our neighborhood, there are 3 Harris signs and 0 Trump signs. It's not much, but that short interaction gave me so much hope. I don't know if y'all know this, but there is a whole thing on TikTok called Republican voters against Trump. And I love watching that TikTok page sometimes. It just warms my soul to see all of these people, and a lot of them are older white people. It just moves me because I know that I would never vote GOP as an agnostic Black woman. It just isn't going to happen. They are against everything that I value as a person. But it's so wonderful seeing all these other people that are finally waking up out of their Trump coma, their Trump cult. This person, Wilder Pixie, says, I live in small town Ohio. Since Trump ran the first time, my area has been covered in signs, flags, bumper stickers, whole long fence lines and barns covered in this. Since the debate, I've been watching little Harris signs pop up everywhere. We aren't as loud. None of us plaster her face on our barn, but I started counting on my drives. For every one big Trump display, I see 5 little yard signs. It's balm to my soul. Wink Reflex says, reading this is balm to mine. Please let this nightmare end. False Physics says, you're not alone, friend. After the nightmare ends, we need to be vigilant about who said what in the past. These F's need to have justice slammed into them. Yes, let's slam them into some justice. Immortal Frieza says, what we really need is to plug up the holes that let them get away with this crap, starting with revamping the judicial system. Classic Progress says, yes, the bigger problems are the officials, politicians, and judges who allowed Trump to make a mockery of the USA, who lied constantly and defended this creep. Select Belt Out says, follow the money. Certain private interests have bankrolled this for over 50 years. The first order of business is reinstatement of the FCC news regulations that Reagan booted to make all the dollars transparent, either federally or every single state. Aruba says, Northwest Ohio reporting in. No firm data to back it up, but I can definitively say I see more Harris signs this time around than Trump signs, including some really, really big ones. Wilder Pixie says, yeah, it's giving me the slightest shiver, maybe sliver of hope. My county and state are both I'm projecting for Trump, but I'm not wholly convinced. Something has changed. The Trumpers are embarrassed, except the loudest. Their signs vanishing. My Roe v. Wade sign got stolen out of my yard. My neighbor actually faced his sign at my house instead of the road. Like from my front porch, I could see at least 5 Trump things. There are 0 in my direct neighborhood now. One street nearby has the whole deal, flags and signs and a stupid truck. They are all still diehard Trumpers, but every other sign on the street is for Harris. That is actually that's kind of cool. This person continues, I'm trying so hard not to get my hopes up. Everyone keeps saying Ohio is a foregone conclusion for Trump. Living here, though, it's different. There is change. I hope it's indicative of a larger trend and not just my neighbors who have suddenly seen the light. Aruba says, I really, really hope so. I'll believe it when I see it, but we're going to keep fighting until we get Ohio back to purple like it used to be. Yes, on issue one, all the way. We told these bastards in 2018 and they didn't listen, but they sure as hell better listen this time. Kendra Ty says, weirdly, I think January 6th impact is being vastly underestimated. That was a step too far for a lot of old school Republicans who voted for him in 16 and 2020. I see that with the Republican voters against Trump TikTok. A lot of them have said it's because of January 16th. It says, still see the custom displays that never really came down, but there aren't nearly as many small signs as there used to be. Meanwhile, it seems like every other Sherrod Brown sign is big and they are everywhere. So Sherrod Brown is running for Congress. All right, y'all. Join the conversation. Let me know what you think, what you're seeing in your small town. Let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.
Trump's decision to name J.D. Vance as vice president has just made me double down on never voting Trump, ever, ever, ever again. I'm Melanie. I voted for Trump in 2016, but in 2024, I'm voting for Kamala Harris. There was the big election lie. I have just never seen a president refuse to accept the peaceful transfer of power. To me, that's treason. That's outright treason. I don't see how anybody could see it as anything else. Not to mention, they had a gallows and a noose waiting for Mike Pence. Who knows what could have happened had the crowd gotten a hold of Pence that day. I'm all in for Kamala. She is smart. She's articulate. I like her positioning as the prosecutor against the felon. Trump's decision to name J.D. Vance as vice president has just made me double down on never voting Trump, ever, ever, ever again. I really didn't appreciate J.D. Vance's comments about childless cat ladies. Not all of us have children, but that doesn't make a woman lesser if she doesn't have children. Just to be told, oh, well, you don't count because you didn't bear children. That's insanity. It's outright misogyny. I'm not going to vote for that.
If you were divorced, you were unlikely to be the president of the United States. And now you can be a convicted felon and be the president of the United States. That's just outrageous. My name is Joni. I live in Montana. I'm a former Trump voter. I voted for him in 2016, but I'm not voting for Trump in 2024. I'm not voting for him for several reasons, but one of the main reasons is he was responsible for the insurrection. Without Donald Trump, there would not have been an insurrection. A convicted felon being the president of the United States is ridiculous, especially 34, however many felonies he's been convicted of. And not just those felonies, he's been convicted of sexual assault. I remember when, if you were divorced, you were unlikely to be the president of the United States. And now you can be a convicted felon and be the president of the United States. That's just outrageous. It is easy for me to vote for anyone other than Donald Trump, whether they're a Democrat or a Chia pet. In 2024, I'll be voting for Kamala Harris enthusiastically. I have no qualms about voting for Kamala Harris. I'm excited that it is her. I'm excited that she picked Walz as her running mate.